I'll start with a few photos of the boat in its sunken state, and you'll see different stages of it below the water and eventually coming out of the water. So here's a little bit of backstory, and make sure to stay tuned because it's going to be a two-part series. Not only are we going to talk about how this boat sunk, how it was recovered, and why it sunk, but we ended up selling it a year later in an auction, and we had the two coolest rednecks I ever seen in my life show up to our marina, and with a makeshift trailer. And well, you just have to check it out. Tune in or stay tuned for the next episode. Well, back to this boat. This boat sunk. It was, a lot of people think that a boat sinks because it's got a hole in the bottom. Well, this boat didn't have a hole in the bottom that wasn't intentionally made. Here's the thing. With a boat this size, typically there's two engines and an air conditioner or heating unit. And all three of those, the two engines and the air conditioning unit, draw water from the river, in this case, or lake or ocean, to cool the engines and to use in the air conditioning system. Well, each of these have a seacock, or a valve, basically, that goes through the hull of the boat. And here in Minnesota, in the wintertime, when these boats go up on land, they have to be winterized. So there's a lot of different ways people winterize these boats. A lot of folks drain the water out of them. Some run antifreeze back through the engines. But regardless, they have to be made ready or summarized for an upcoming season. When this boat was launched, or when any of these boats are launched, boat owners should do a thorough check, lifting up the engine compartment, looking in the bilge to see if there's any water leaks through it from any of these seacocks, any of the engine hoses, any of the other water lines. Could be a brittle and old hose that's been damaged over time or worn out over time. Could be as simple as a hose clamp that's gone bad that could cause a leak in any of these boats. So here's what we found out. Ultimately, this boat sank because all three seacocks were left wide open. The owner never checked in the bilge compartment, and in 5.5 hours it was so far gone once we saw the boat was sinking that there was nothing we could do other than start a plan for a recovery message, or recovery mission, I guess. So anyway, check this out. It's kind of interesting seeing how the boat was sunk, extracted, and then again, stay tuned for the next episode where you'll get to see how this boat gets taken off our property. You won't want to miss that. So here's the tragedy of this whole ordeal. This is a Bayliner model 3258 Avante command bridge or fly bridge. These are some stock images of what it would have looked like in its heyday. These are just some random photos I found online, but you'll notice it's got a nice interior salon, nice fly bridge, helm station. There's sleeping in the V berth. There's also a full head bathroom, stand-up shower. Nice salon area and dinette table. It would have slept probably 4 people. And the tragedy is, it's simply because of owner error that this boat sank. Ended up being a complete loss. The owner ended up signing the title over to us because he didn't know what to do with it, and we ended up putting it in an auction a year later. And again, you're going to want to stay tuned or look for future episodes and not miss the next one. Okay, so here's some of the messy details about this recovery. The boat sank in 5.5 hours in its slip, temporary slip, before it was supposed to leave our property. And who do we call? Our friends at Croy Maritime. Jason shows up with his tugboat, his working barge with crane on it. And the idea is to get a strap underneath the boat and lift up with the crane while pumping out as much water as you possibly can. Ultimately just trying to gain ground on the water extraction while lifting the boat up. So this went on for hours and hours and hours. We started off with 3 trash pumps. I believe it was 2 3-inch pumps and a 2-inch pump. And ended up, after several hours, not making as much progress as they'd like to have. Went and grabbed 2 more pumps, and the addition of these 2 pumps ended up making the difference. Ultimately, the boat started to get higher and higher in the water, and towards the end it got a little shaky because as much as they would have liked to have just popped it right out of the water, they were battling water coming in from the windows, so they were in trying to close the windows. Some of the pump, the hoses of the pumps where they were extracting water were trying to float, so we had sandbags trying to hold them down into the bottom of the boat, the lowest areas of the boat where they could get these pumps. So after fighting with it more, eventually it came to the surface, and we figured this was all the water we could get out of it. In some of these photos you see people climbing around on the boat trying to close the hatches as it was coming up. But eventually my son and I, Austin, who is the best deckhand, dockhand a person could ask for. He's been around boats his whole life, worked at the marina as a dockhand for a couple summers, hopped on the workboat with me, and it was our job to tie up to the stern of this now risen boat and get it to our boat launch, where Jason would be waiting with the hydraulic trailer to pull it out. Here's a photo. You can see we're actually now out in the open water with this boat, and the current was so strong at the time, this boat was so heavy, my little 40-horse Honda wasn't able to move the boat. We were stuck in one place, and to be honest, probably losing ground. At this point you start wondering what the heck's gonna happen, because we're heading under a bridge into rocks. I'm not going nowhere if we can't control this boat. So Jason hopped on Ugg the Tug, as it's so aptly named, and came to our rescue. Gave the boat a little shove on the side and got us spun around the right direction, and we got a rope on the tug, and he got us pulled over to the launch ramp, or in this case loading ramp, You got the trailer down there. You can see we're still fighting, or he's fighting, the boat from sinking. So we later find out that there were 3 wide open holes in the hull of the boat, both engine seacocks being wide open, and the AC unit seacock was wide open. So it was a matter of time before this boat sinks again. So we get the trailer, Jason gets the trailer in the launch, we get the boat over it, the trailer as best we can. You can see it kind of listing to the left, leaning to the left, and eventually he was able to get it out, got it back to the corner of our property, set on blocks and stands where we watched it drain out of all 3 of these seacocks for a significant period of time. So that is the story of the sunken boat. The problem herein was trying to figure out a plan of what to do with this sunken boat, because it really was totaled because of this. We ended up getting the title eventually, and that's now a year later, and we just had an auction a few weeks ago, and this boat sold, this $35,000-ish boat sold at auction for just over $200 to a couple of guys from North Dakota who might have bitten off more than they could chew, but with some real down-home redneck ingenuity figured out how to get this boat off of our property. And it's beyond me how it ever came to be, or how it worked out that they were able to get this boat off our property based on the trailer they brought. Here's an example. So we have a 32-foot boat that's all of 15 feet high or so, 15 feet high, and weighing in at about 11 to 12,000 pounds. This is the trailer they bought, a flatbed equipment trailer, sits around 3 feet off the ground, doesn't really have bunks to support the boat on either side, but their intentions were to build some bunks and somehow get this boat off of its stands and onto this trailer to drive 5.5 or 6 hours home. Stay tuned. You definitely won't want to miss this next episode. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, comment, like the video, share it with friends, and hit the notification bell so you get notifications every time we put out new content. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.